My name is Ebony and welcome to part 5 of the Film Spark special, The Story of Blair Witch. This is a 7-part special to break down and deep dive into the lore of the Blair Witch and the associated films. This is part 5 where I discuss the mockumentary Shadow of the Blair Witch and the book series The Blair Witch Files. So grab a snacky snack and get comfy as we dive down into part 5 of the Blair Witch rabbit hole. Directed by Ben Rock and airing on the Sci-Fi Channel in conjunction with the release of Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2, the mockumentary Shadow of the Blair Witch takes an objective look at the events of the Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2. Running 45 minutes, it examines the troubled life of the real Jeff Patterson and his obsession with the Blair Witch Project. Within the documentary, the events of Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2 are presented as a film adaptation based on the Black Hills murders that took place shortly after the events of the Blair Witch Project. This documentary presents Book of Shadows Blair Witch 2 as a film within a film. The Blair Witch Project, Shadow of the Blair Witch, examines the troubled life of the real-life Patterson and his obsession with the Blair Witch Project. It looks into his legal defense team as the case prepares for trial and as the public reacts to plans to fictionalize the case's events for the big screen. Protests of the film Book of Shadows Blair Witch 2 are discussed coming from both the families of those involved with the case and with the Wiccan community as a whole. A common theme throughout this series is that a look at the mockumentary series seems to be more convincing than the films themselves. There was no real hype for Book of Shadows to be seen as a real film, and thus had no real effect on the reception, even though there was mockumentaries accompanying the film to suggest otherwise. Once again, if going in blind, I can see how watching this may lead you to believe that there were actual events that occurred to inspire the Book of Shadows. However, it loses its authenticity when watching after the main film itself. The Blair Witch Files, or simply Blair Witch Files, is a series of supernatural mystery novels first published in August 2000. The books are created and produced by Parachute Publishing under license from Artisan Entertainment and were distributed by Random House Publishing subsidiary Bantam Books. The books are ghostwritten by a number of authors and published under the collective pseudonym of the titular character Cade Merrill. The novels chronicle Merrill's personal investigation into the disappearance of his cousin Heather Donahue from the Blair Witch Project. Amaret Jones, who had previous experience in the consumer products field, served as the Senior VP of Marketing for Artisan Pictures. Jones worked closely on the marketing campaign for the Blair Witch Project and oversaw all licensing. The licensing campaign for the film generated approximately $1 million in licensed merchandise sales within a year. Following the success, Artisan began looking at ways to expand the property, which led them to team up with Parachute Publishing and Random House Children's Books to produce a book series inspired by the legend of the Blair Witch. Bantam Books was tasked with marketing the new series, dubbed The Blair Witch Files, which began in the summer of 2000. Before each book was published, its manuscript was sent to Ben Rock by the Artisan VP of Consumer Products Farrell McDonald. Rock, who created all of the folklore for the Blair Witch, would read each manuscript and make notes on how the books could better fit with the lore that had already been established. His notes would sometimes focus on geography-based issues more than anything else. Rock's notes were never about the specific narrative in the books, but rather their consistency. The series was originally published in English by Random House Children's Books imprint Bantam Books in the United States, and by Hodder Headline in the United Kingdom. The book covers were designed by John Fantana and illustrated by Cliff Nielsen. Book 1. The Witch's Daughter. In the first volume's acknowledgement section, Cade thanks ghostwriter Carol Ellis for her part in the preparation of this book. The story then goes straight into an email Cade received from a high school senior named Justin Petite. He asked for help finding information on Lee Irwin, the woman his grandfather claims is trying to kill him. Justin explains Erwin has already killed other people, according to his grandfather. From there, Kate details his research, which includes 100 hours of taped interviews with Justin Petit, written transcripts, newspaper articles, phone conversations, emails, local police, and FBI records and journal entries. Heather's cousin has now found himself in his first case, the one he calls the witch's daughter. Kate has an active role in the second novel, The Dark Room, and helping him pull his bizarre experiences into a manuscript is ghostwriter Megan Stein. The second case involves a teenager, Laura Morley, coming to visit Burkittsville after moving away as a child. She randomly shows up after shooting Kate an email, then worms her way into his house while his parents are gone. When they visit the site of Rustin Parr's residence, which burned down in 1941, Laura swears she can still see the house. Kate does not believe her until he sees the house himself in Laura's photographs. She's able to capture what she sees on film, but it's only visible in the dark room. Her photographs open an unknown chapter in the life of the child killer Rustin Parr, and they are the key to unlocking her own past and her connection to the Blair Witch. Soon, though, it becomes all too much for Laura, and she succumbs to the power and disappears. In March of 1999, before going off to college, a Baltimore high school student named Cecilia Northrup chaperoned a school-sanctioned camping trip in Black Rock State Park. She was joined by her boyfriend Mark Reddick, their 2 friends, 2 teachers, and 37 middle schoolers. Their campsite was not far from where Eileen Treacle drowned, and according to legend, the girl was pulled under by a bony white hand. With the trip preceding the release of the Blair Witch Project, California transplant Cecilia was unaware of the territory's biggest attraction. However, she does get a crash course in the myth of Eileen. When Mark goes uncharacteristically aggro, people gradually disappear. The water source turns black and gooey, and there are sightings of a barefoot ghost nearby. The drowning ghost is a detour from the overarching plot, but it is the most thoroughly suspenseful entry so far. Kate's research, while otherwise enlightening in books where the continuity is integral, is less present here, and with fewer informative interludes. The third Blair Witch Files better resembles a straightforward novel. It indeed operates like The Witch's Daughter in that way. Casual readers may find themselves more engaged with this book in view of the inviting setup, tense atmosphere, and ghoulish developments. Book 4, Blood Nightmare. Blood Nightmare was written by Mark Saraceni and published in December 2000. The story follows Frank Hunter, who takes a wrong turn down a dark, winding road and finds himself in a strange, silent town that seems to exist only in his dreams. He then meets the beautiful young woman who shares those dreams, but in hers, Frank is marked for death. In Book 5, the Death Card was written by Joanne Egan Neal and published in February 2001. Follows the story of 1974 Gavin Burns, the nephew of Bill Barnes, disappeared in the woods near Deep Creek Lake. The only witness, 16-year-old Sharon Webster, knows he was a victim of the Blair Witch, and she will carry that secret to her grave. But her silence means that someone else may suffer Gavin's fate. In Book 6, The Prisoner was written by Cameron Doki and published in April 2001. It follows at 18, Eliza Bynes was convicted of murder. She claimed that the real killer was under the control of the Blair Witch, but now she wants Kate's help. In Book 7, The Night Shifters was written by Carol Ellis and Ellen Steiber, and published on May 8, 2001. Kate Merrill's search for the truth about the Blair Witch often leaves him with as many questions as answers. When he receives an email from a psychic who can communicate with the spirit of the Blair Witch, he wonders if it's too good to be true. Which brings us to the final book, The Obsession, which was written by Cameron Doki and published in July 2001. Kate Merrill continues to find the secrets of the Blair legend with a psychic that apparently can communicate with the spirit of the Blair Witch, but this could also lead into a deadly trap. And that concludes episode 5 of the story of the Blair Witch. Ratings and full reviews of each piece of media viewed within the series will be provided in the conclusion episode at the end. I hope you've enjoyed this 3rd episode and continue to listen along for the 7-part series. Again, my name is Ebony. I am the host of the Film Spark podcast, and thank you for listening.